Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to do my first mock draft of the off season here. Had a lot of fun putting it together. It's definitely not going to be the last one. And yeah, actually before we jump into it, just wanted to quickly say thanks so much for supporting the channel, right? Checking out the videos, hanging out, like hitting the like button, all that stuff means a ton. Especially looking at how bad last season went for the New York Jets in 2023. I am totally amped up for 2024, this offseason, free agency, trades, the draft, all that stuff. So anyway, just wanted to say thanks. Let's jump into the mock. So first up here, Caleb Williams going to the Chicago Bears. Not trying to do too much here. I just feel like at this point in time, right, mid-February, all signs are pointing in this direction. Not only will the Bears be drafting somebody that they feel as a franchise that they can build around for the next 10 seasons, but they can also, and this is in my opinion a pretty underrated point, they're resetting the financial clock at the quarterback position. We all know these guys get paid a ton, and whether you're in on Justin Fields or you're out, no matter how you look at it, no matter, again, you love him or you hate him, drafting Caleb Williams makes sense from a financial aspect. You have, again, your quote-unquote franchise quarterback on a cheap rookie deal for the next 5 seasons. This team already has some foundational pieces in place, right? DJ Moore's coming off a career year. Montez Sweat looks like a freaking animal coming off the edge. I really like some of these acquisitions that the Bears have made over these past couple of seasons, and not to mention they have another pick in the top 10 here. So I think at the end of the day, Caleb Williams will probably be a Chicago Bear. Next up, Washington Commanders at spot number 2. I personally feel like the Commanders are in a great position, right? Jaden Daniels or Drake May, I don't think you can go wrong here. Both quarterbacks bring so many likable traits to the table. But they have a ton of wide receivers. They have Cliff Kingsbury coming in to run the offense, right? So he's going to handpick his guy. You have Dan Quinn to take care of the defense. You have multiple other high picks in the draft. You have so much room and cap space. Of course, the draft is after free agency, so we'll see what moves they make, but I mean, man, the Commanders are sitting here right now, not like, oh man, we just missed out on the top quarterback in the draft, this sucks. It's like, no, we have two options that, in my opinion, are worthy of being the second overall pick. But for this mock draft, I'm going Drake May. I think May brings so many things to the table, right? So many things that you can build around. Size, arm strength, mobility, playmaking ability. There were times where, it seemed like the play was dead, but, out of nowhere, May underhands a ball for a TD or extends a play and makes something happen down the field. Deep ball accuracy, crazy with Drake May, right? I think if you take Drake May right now and you put him on Washington, thinking about Jahan Dotson on the outsides, Terry McLaurin, I think this would be an offense it's going to spray the football around. I think it would be so much fun to watch, especially with Cliff Kingsbury. And also, you're looking at Cliff Kingsbury's offensive system, right? So I think Jaden Daniels would fit, but I think Drake May, you look at the system that he ran at North Carolina. It was an air raid. Phil Longo came from the Mike Leach coaching tree. Cliff Kingsbury met the Mike Leach coaching tree. So I do think there is some carryover there. And Either way, whether you prefer Jaden Daniels over May, that's totally fine. I don't think Washington can go wrong either way. Moving on to spot number 3 here, we have a trade. I got the New England Patriots trading back and the Las Vegas Raiders coming up. When I look at the Raiders right now, they feel like they can win. And there's been numerous reports that the Raiders want to land their franchise quarterback. They're in a division with Justin Herbert and now Jim Harbaugh. They're in a division with Andy Reid and the Super Bowl champion Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, and Sean Payton really turned the Denver Broncos around in the back half of last season. They have pieces, right? You have 2 stud wide receivers, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams. You got a great back in Josh Jacobs. You have a young tight end in Michael Mayer. Not to mention the defense. The defense has building blocks as well. Merrick at safety, Max Crosby at edge. Tyree Wilson was a top 10 pick last season. I like the position that the Raiders are in. But again, numerous reports here, number one, they're interested in trading up. Number 2, they are really searching for their franchise quarterback. I think Daniels makes a lot of sense. Plug and play here. He gives you way more athleticism, way more playmaking ability, way more mobility than a Jimmy Garoppolo or an Aiden O'Connell. I love AOC, right? Aiden O'Connell, to me, last season, I was totally impressed. Coming in mid-round rookie, dysfunction Josh McDaniels, to do what he did, I was totally impressed. But I think Jaden Daniels is at another level, right? I think he gives you that quick release, he gives you deep ball accuracy, he gives you explosiveness, he gives you just that extra wrinkle within the offense, right? The read option game, the RPO game, the quarterback running game. There's just so many things that you can do with Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position with the help around him. I mean, what other franchise out there can say to a rookie quarterback, hey, we'll give you two really, really good wide receivers, one of which is arguably the best in football, a really, really good running back, and a young foundational tight end who we drafted in the second round who had an extremely productive career at Notre Dame. I mean, that's pretty likable. Got to figure out the offensive line, but there's free agency for that. And then as far as the New England Patriots go, there's been, much like the Raiders trying to move up, there's been reports that New England could look to move down, right? First year rookie head coach, defensive guy, Gerard Mayo. This team, you look at their shortcomings last season offensively, this team just had no pop. There was no creativity. There was no explosion on the offensive side of the football. And it's not because of just the quarterback position, right? You can look at the lack of talent at wide receiver. This is a wide receiver room that, in my opinion, needs a lot of work. You can also look at the offensive line, right? Specifically tackle. Trent Brown at this point in time, right? Mid-February, Trent Brown is set to hit the open market. Starting tackle from last year. There was also weird tweets and stuff like that regarding Trent Brown. So you have a vacancy at one tackle spot. You have Mike Onwenu, who's set to hit the open market, who is the Patriots starting right tackle last season, who I'm a big fan of. I hope the Jets target him. But you have 2 question marks at tackle. You have a million question marks at wide receiver. Do you want to draft a quarterback and throw him into the starting lineup with not a lot of help around him? I just don't know. I don't know if this is the season to go and do that. Okay, next up, Arizona here. Marvin Harrison, no surprise here. This is pretty much the consensus across the board, right? The Cardinals really need help at wide receiver. Hollywood Brown's set to hit the open market. And Marvin Harrison is considered the best wide receiver prospect, I want to say since Jamar Chase. Size, speed, playmaking ability, great hands. Man, there's so many things to like with Marvin Harrison. Super easy selection if I'm Arizona. Next up, LA Chargers. I'm going tight end Brock Bowers. The Chargers right now are a win now football team. This is such a weird situation. You look at LA. What other team out there has a franchise quarterback that's considered one of the best quarterbacks in all of football? Has numerous pieces, numerous building blocks all across the football team, pressed up against the cap, but lose a bunch of football games. And granted, Herbert was hurt, but I mean, man, the Chargers have so many things figured out. You have Harbaugh coming in. He's going to turn this organization around one way or another. I just don't see a 5-win season next season from the Chargers. I just don't. Bowers is a win now move. Right, think of all the good tight end prospects that have came out over the last couple of seasons. Dalton Kincaid, Hawkinson, Fant. Right now, Bowers is considered the best tight end prospects in a long time. Playmaker. You look at Gerald Everett being a free agent. I think this is a win now player for a win now team. I've seen the argument for wide receiver, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze here, but when I look at the Chargers roster, Mike Williams, big money deal, former first rounder. Quentin Johnston, first round pick last season. Keenan Allen. I like Palmer too. So if I'm the Chargers, I just don't know if I want to invest my top 5 pick in a position where I already feel pretty good about. I for sure understand that it's the long-term play and you can probably move off some of these big, contracts. The following season if you draft one in the top 5, that way you're locked in and ready to go. But for me, Brock Bowers, I think it does make sense for a Jim Harbaugh-led football team that's completely win now. Okay, for the Giants at spot number 6, I'm going LSU wide receiver Malik Neighbors. I think Neighbors today is the best wide receiver in the Giants roster. I think when you're sitting here as a top 6 pick, an offensive-minded coach in Brian Daboll, looking at the offense struggling last season and having no depth at wideout, this is really enticing. Neighbors brings route running, he brings hands, he brings playmaking ability, he brings a dynamic piece at the wide receiver position. He kind of reminds me a bit of Stephon Diggs in Minnesota. Who did Stephon Diggs get traded to? The Buffalo Bills. Not only did he just help Josh Allen out and that Bills offense out tremendously, but Brian Daboll was the team's offensive coordinator. right? So you can go out and get a humongous upgrade with the 6th overall pick here, add Neighbors to the team, and then maybe go out and sign a free agent. A Gabe Davis, a former Buffalo Bill here. I think if you're looking at Gabe Davis and Malik Neighbors on the Giants offense, you could see this thing really start to make noise next season. Next up, spot number 7, super easy one here. I'm going Joe Alt. The Titans really need help at left tackle. They just didn't have the bodies. They didn't have the talent there, really on the offensive line last season. I think the thought of pairing Joe Alt right next to Skoronski on the left side is super enticing. To me, this is probably the easiest pick in the entire draft. It just makes all the sense in the world. Next up, spot number 8 here, Atlanta Falcons. I'm going Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. Brings so much physicality, so much athleticism to the edge rusher position. Raheem Morris coming in. Yes, the Falcons have a lot of pieces. You have 3 dynamic playmakers on offense in Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London. 3 former top 10 picks. I really don't feel the need, and keep in mind also too, before free agency, I don't really feel the need to address the offensive side of the football here. I need to target defense. Raheem Morris, a defensive guy that has seen great edge rusher play coming from the LA Rams, could go out and select one here in Dallas Turner, who I would say is probably the number 1 edge rusher in the class. I'm a really big fan of Laiatu Latu from UCLA, but I understand, the injury concern with Latu, but in any case, Dallas Turner here to the Atlanta Falcons. Next up at 9, Chicago Bears, I'm going Rome Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. Go get your new quarterback, a new weapon on the outside. Odunze is consistent. He's big. Week in, week out, he puts up numbers, right? And granted, Washington's offense as a whole put up numbers, but he can hurt you. Red zone. Odunze to me is a really high floor type of player, a safe prospect. I think he's going to come in and instantly be a fantastic number 2 opposite of DJ Moore. And if you're Caleb Williams coming in, you're like, man, I got a new offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron. DJ Moore coming off the best season of his career, and now one of the top wide receivers, arguably the second best wide receiver in the class in Odunze, here at spot number 9. Again, much like Caleb, on a cheap rookie deal. That to me is huge. Now you can maybe make an argument for edge rusher or something like that, which I understand, to pair up with Montez Sweat. You're already addressing offense at number 1 with Caleb. And they really need help at that other edge position. But I think Bryce Huff, former Jet, somebody who's expected to hit the open market, would be a great fit for what Eberflus wants to do on defense. Somebody who would receive a ton of playing time, as well as the Bears having a lot of cap space to go out and sign him. So I think I would maybe sign a free agent at edge and then draft wide receiver at 9. Okay, it's spot number 10 here. Let's go. We got the New York Jets. I'm going Olu Fashanu, left tackle from Penn State. Go land the future tackle. Go land the franchise left tackle here. The pass protection is fantastic when it comes to Olu Fashanu at Penn State. He was considered a top 10 pick in 2022. He stays in school. 2023 rolls around. He's still considered a top 10 pick. Granted, he might not have the highest of floors compared to like a Joe Alt. But man, when you think about upside, when you think about just the Jets' lack of tackle talent that we haven't had that dude since DeBrickashaw Ferguson. We've been searching and searching, free agents, draft picks. We can't find him. If Fashanu comes in the Jets locker room, I think he's the best tackle on day 1. And granted, this is before free agency again, but I think it's just so enticing. You have to keep Aaron Rodgers upright, and there's still so much growth left in the tank for Fashanu here. Now, I guess you can maybe push back and say, well, Keith Carter's the O-line coach, so he's not going to receive great coaching, which is fair. And Hackett's the offensive coordinator, but I'm not making this 10th overall pick just who's going to be the biggest impactful player in 2024. I'm selecting this pick with the mindset of the next decade. The next decade. That's how important I'm viewing this pick, right? You don't have a second round pick. You have to land this spot. You have to get, somebody that is going to help you in the short term, but also in the long term. So fills a need. One of the best, I would probably say he's the best pass blocking tackle in the entire NFL draft. To me, it's a slam dunk. I really think it's a slam dunk here for the Jets at 10. Next up, spot number 11, Minnesota Vikings. I'm going Gerard Verse from Florida State. Edge rusher help. I think the Vikings really need, they also need defensive tackle help, but edge rusher, go get Kevin McConnell a physical, a big, intimidating edge rusher here in Verse. Former transfer, comes over to Florida State and freaking dominates. I mean, Verse at times last season for the Seminoles would just take over games. He would just take over, unblockable, just completely wreck offensive game plans. And there's some question marks about Daniil Hunter. I think Minnesota right now, they just need talent. They need depth on the defensive line, again, at multiple areas. So just, in my opinion, I wouldn't overthink a quarterback here. O'Connell seems to maximize the quarterback position with whoever he has. If they're really, really interested in QB, I think if I was them, I would maybe target one at the top of round 2. Michael Penix if he falls, maybe a Spencer Rattler or something like that. I wouldn't necessarily reach at spot number 11 here to go with the 4th best QB when you have so many needs on the defensive line. Okay, so spot number 12 with the Denver Broncos. This, to me, I gotta be honest, was the hardest pick in the entire draft for me to make. So the Vegas favorite right now is Bo Nix. And with the reports of Russell Wilson and the Broncos potentially parting ways, with Sean Payton really wanting to get his franchise quarterback, with Bo Nix coming in with extreme accuracy, great college statistics, a lot of starts under his belt, mobility, production working under center, pieces around Bo Nix, I feel like Sean Payton could probably go down this direction. So I'm going to go with Bo Nix here for Denver. If there's that organizational belief in Bo Nix, if there's that belief in Sean Payton that he can become a franchise quarterback, because you're not going to draft a stopgap. You're not going to draft the 16th ranked, you're not going to pick a quarterback with the 12th overall pick here if you hope that he can be a top 20 guy. You're not doing it. So there needs to be, again, that organizational belief that Bo Nix will be a top 10 pick if you pair him with Sean Payton. And if you don't have that mindset, you should just pass. But as of right now, it seems like this is the direction it seems like where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of different ties linking the two parties, Nixon and Sean Payton, together. So I'm rolling with Bo. Next up at 13, New England Patriots. I'm going right tackle from Oregon State, Talise Fuaga. So right now, the Patriots, like we talked about before, they have 2 question marks at tackle. Mike Onwenu is set at the open market at right. Fuaga would come in and easily replace him. Right, I think if you're New England, you can go get a building block, somebody with a high floor and a high ceiling, somebody who's going to be dominant in the running game. I think this makes a lot of sense. I would love Fuaga for the Jets at spot number 10, but I opted for, the high upside left tackle compared to, maybe the high floor right tackle in, Fuaga here. So at the end of the day, New England, in a trade down scenario here, you're going to be recouping a ton of draft picks, right? If you move out of 3, you're probably going to be getting, a 2 at least this year, potentially, a 1 and a 2 the following year. So I know on the surface, just looking at this, round 1 mock scenario, it's just like, great, we moved from 3 to 13 and we just end up with the right tackle. But again, kind of my thinking behind it was, you're loading up this year, you're loading up next year with all these extra draft picks. So I actually really like this pick for New England. I think you would go in and, potentially replace Onwenu and be that systematic fit as well. Next up at 14, New Orleans Saints. I'm going edge rusher from UCLA, Laiatu Latu. Latu has put together 2 incredible seasons for the UCLA Bruins. There's a ton of potential there. He's versatile. You can line him up in different areas. He's violent. He always seems to affect the quarterback no matter what. The Saints are 29th in overall sack percentage last year. You look at Dennis Allen's defense, it's a freaking good unit. Like, they have so many solid, like they have a lot of things figured out already. A lot of veterans all over the place that know it, that know their role and that can, go out and execute. But I really feel like pass rushers, they kind of lack in that department. If this Saints defense gets some consistency at edge, consistency at rushing the passer week in, week out, I mean, man, I could easily see the Saints defense being a top 3, top 5 unit in the league. Again, if they had pass rushing potential, pass rushing statistics, pass rushing production. And Latu, to me, would come in as a seasoned college veteran and instantly make an impact. Instantly. Okay, for the Colts at 15, I'm going Terrion Arnold, cornerback from Alabama. Go get a CB1. You know, if you're Indianapolis, you have Shane Steichen working the offensive side of the football. You got Anthony Richardson coming back. I would prioritize re-signing Michael Pittman. If they do lose him here, I could see the Colts potentially going wide receiver at 15. But I think, you know, we can't forget about the defense. Houston has turned it around. Jacksonville is going to be in play next season for the division. Tennessee's building, right? But if you're the Colts, you don't want to fall too far behind. CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence are two ultra-talented quarterbacks. Go land Arnold. I believe the future's a bit uncertain right now for Kenny Moore, but Arnold's a guy who can step in right now on the perimeter and has the potential to go lock. I mean, he's one of the top. I think Daniel Jeremiah has him as a top 10 or top 12 ranked prospect in the entire draft. So if you can go land CB1 at 15, if you're the Colts here, I would really be into that. Okay, at 16, we have the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going Byron Murphy, defensive tackle from the Longhorns. Go get Mike McDonald, a new defensive head coach coming in the building, somebody who can rush the passer from the inside as well as stop the run. Seattle has a lot of things figured out, both offensively and defensively, but the one Achilles heel is the D-line, really the D-line depth. It kind of just feels like they continue to lose guys. Poona Ford, Al Woods, Quentin Jefferson. I know they traded for Leonard Williams last season at the trade deadline, but now you have an opportunity here where you can go get, I would say, the best defensive tackle in the class at 16 and pair him up with Leonard Williams. I really like that potential. I really do. At 17 here, this is another hard pick for me, but man, I know Jags fans might not like it, but this to me just kind of seems like the perfect Trent Baalke pick. It's Chop Robinson, edge rusher from Penn State. You look at Robinson's overall like production and whatnot at Penn State, it's not really there, but you look at power, size, speed, athleticism, explosiveness, first step, pop, right? The potential, the ceiling. That's what Chop Robinson brings. And we all know Trent Baalke to go down that path numerous times. He loves going with those ultra athletic types of play. I mean, Travon Walker at spot number 1, perfect example of that, passing up on Aiden Hutchinson for the potential in Walker. And a lot of people are saying, when is Baalke going? Will Baalke ever have a change in mindset? Maybe, but as far as this mock draft goes, I think maybe you can potentially draft offensive line like a Tyler Guyton here or something like that if they want to move on from Cam Robinson. But I think for me, edge rusher is a big need for them. And if you have a guy with an ultra high ceiling with a lot of physical traits, I could see Baalke just pulling the trigger on him. At 18 here with the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going wide receiver from LSU, Brian Thomas Jr. I think despite having Jamar Chase on the outside and the Bengals bringing Higgins back via franchise tag, they still could potentially lose Tyler Boyd, in the slot. Luckily for the Bengals, Thomas can play on the outside and inside. So year 1, he can play that slot wide receiver. And then year 2, if you end up losing T. Higgins, you can bounce him out to the outside and then go replace slot receiver, the following season. I think this makes a lot of sense. Thomas is a win now player. Bengals are a win now team. And I think, you just kind of keep the LSU pipeline going here. But in any case, I really like that fit because of, team need, potentially losing Boyd and the positional versatility. Okay, at 19, LA Rams are going Quinyon Mitchell, corner from Toledo. I think the Rams really need cornerback help. And Mitchell, somebody who's long, somebody who's been productive, somebody who's a Senior Bowl standout, can really step in and immediately be a go-to starter for that Rams defense. Like instant starter, no questions asked. Like one of the top, if not the top guy on LA's defense. With the 20th pick, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers going Amarius Mims, tackle from Georgia. High upside player here, right? Powerful size. You're pairing him up with his former teammate in Broderick Jones, who was the 14th overall pick last year. I think right now what's really important for Arthur Smith, we look at the quarterback position that gets so much flack and stuff. Trubisky, parting ways. Mason Rudolph obviously not being the answer. Kenny Pickett, a lot of question marks there. I think they'll probably end up with Ryan Tannehill. I think Tannehill in Pittsburgh makes sense. Reunite him with Arthur Smith. You got to give Tannehill enough time to throw. You have to be able to open up rushing lanes for Najee Harris, right? Mims falls to you here at the 20th overall pick, a day 1 starter at tackle. To me, I'm running up to Goodell with the card. Just turn it in. let's go get a humongous boost on the offensive line here for Pittsburgh. At 21, Miami Dolphins, I'm going center from Oregon, Jackson Powers Johnson. I think the Dolphins really need some interior offensive line help. And I think Johnson right now, somebody who, of course, was productive at Oregon, but a Senior Bowl standout. He was one of the guys that were, constantly turning heads. And you look at, again, much like the Bengals, the Dolphins are a win now football team. You need somebody to play right now, immediately. So with this pick, I went more so the team need approach. And I unfortunately, as much as I love the Jets and don't like the Dolphins, I do like this pick for them. At 22, Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going corner from Missouri, Ennis Rakestraw Jr. A big 6-foot corner who's physical, right? SEC, he's going up against the top competition in college football. Somebody who's a redshirt junior. He's seen a lot of time. He has a lot of tools to work with from a physical standpoint. And there's questions potentially about Bradbury and whatnot in Philadelphia. Just go add some cornerback depth here. The Eagles are, complete. They have so much pressure on them this season. Go get somebody who can not only just help you year one, but somebody who can also be a building block, right? You don't have to worry about perimeter corner for the next 4 or 5 seasons. At spot number 23, we're going right tackle from Alabama, J.C. Latham. I think George Fant was great last season. You obviously have Tunsil at left tackle, but you want the long-term building block. You want that foundation at right tackle. Latham is a guy who comes in with just tremendous power, right? Running game. He's going to be able to protect C.J. Stroud. I would say right now Latham is probably an upgrade over Fant. So, I mean, if you're talking about a playoff team with a franchise quarterback going into year 2 with not only just the quarterback but the coaching staff, you already have your franchise left tackle. You had some wide receivers emerge last season. You can now go land your franchise right tackle at 23. I mean, if I'm a Texans fan, sign me up for this. I think the Texans are in a similar position as the Jets, where the positions that they need, the positions are deep, and the prospects are deep with wide receiver and offensive tackle here. So yeah, J.C. Latham for me for the Houston Texans. At 24, Dallas Cowboys, I'm going Jordan Morgan, left tackle from Arizona. I think this makes a lot of sense, right? You already have your right tackle, good to go. Left tackle, Tyron Smith, he could leave in free agency. He's battled injuries. He's 33 years old. He could command a lot of money. Go land your future left tackle in Morgan. At 25, we're going corner Cooper DeJean from Iowa. When I look at Green Bay, I really feel like they need help at corner and safety. I believe it was Daniel Jeremiah who said that DeJean could potentially be a safety at the NFL level if corner doesn't work out. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone in this situation here. DeJean is an ultra athletic corner, a lot of production. He's received great coaching with the Hawkeyes. That's something that all Hawkeyes have in common. Obviously, they went with Lucas Van Ness last season, but to me, I like this pick. Team need. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 26, wide receiver from Florida State. I think this could be the steal of the draft, Keon Coleman. Chris Godwin's getting paid a ton of money. There's questions about Mike Evans, although I do feel like he will be back. Keon Coleman is so much fun to watch. Fantastic hands. These one-hand snags that Coleman has are incredible. Frankly, incredible. Watched every single game of Coleman's career with the Florida State Seminoles. So much fun to watch. Keep him in state, and he would kind of give the Bucs some flexibility at wide receiver. We can now move on from Godwin, clear a bunch of money, and now have a core piece at wide receiver. 27, Arizona Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon, go get a corner. Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, big, physical. You look at the Arizona Cardinals overall, yes, they have some awesome pieces, but I really want to see them build out the cornerback position a little bit more. I think McKinstry would come in and check that box and fill really the exact needs that Gannon wants for the cornerback position. Also, you look at where Gannon had a lot of success with Philadelphia, it was defensive backs. Buffalo Bills at spot number 28. For me, I'm going wide receiver. It was tough. I was either going to go Xavier Leggett from South Carolina, but I think I'm going to go Troy Franklin. 6'3", possesses a ton of speed, production all over the place. Somebody who would come in and be a great number 2 wide receiver opposite of a Stephon Diggs. Somebody who would come in immediately and help this team out, help Josh Allen out in the deep parts of the field. Right, I mean, Bills fans were sick and tired of seeing like James Cook drop a pass walking into the end zone, Stephon Diggs, the ball going right through his hands. Get Josh Allen some more help, my lord. Like, I don't understand these teams that have fantastic quarterbacks but just don't supply them with enough talent offensively. So, Bills, I'm going wide receiver. At spot number 29, the Detroit Lions, I'm going to Donnie Mitchell, wide receiver from Texas. Lions have a lot of things answered already, but I think they need edge, they need corner, and they need wide receivers. Mitchell would come in with great size, great production, and help take pressure off of Jamison Williams on the outside, and of course St. Brown on the inside. At 30 with the Baltimore Ravens, I'm going linebacker from Texas A&M, Edgerrin Cooper. They could lose Patrick Queen in free agency, and I think Cooper is the exact scheme fit for what the Ravens want to do to come in and replace him. At 31 with the 49ers, right, the team that just lost the Super Bowl, I'm going right tackle from Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton. He falls to the Niners here. I think he would be a tremendous, tremendous pickup here this late in the draft. And then at spot number 32, we're going Darius Robinson, defensive tackle from Missouri. What's the future of Chris Jones looking like? We don't know. Mike Pennell, obviously huge addition. He's been such a big acquisition for them, made so many impactful plays. But Robinson, one of the Senior Bowl standouts, a lot of production in the SEC, and that's going to round it out for me. So thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.